Monsternomicon is a comprehensive book on monsters of the Iron Kingdoms. We sort of handpicked a number of monsters that we felt were complex and interesting enough to kind of stand on their own, to base entire campaigns around, where we really had kind of a wealth of information that we could provide on them, which we compiled together into a single volume, which is compatible with both the Iron Kingdoms role-playing game and the Unleashed role-playing game.
When you open up the Monsternomicon and you look at a monster entry, you're going to be just assaulted with all of this great information. Every monster has a 2-page spread.
The descriptions include information about maybe where you would find these kind of creatures, like what kind of environment would they be in? What would it be like to encounter one of these creatures in the wild? How are you going to come upon them? What kind of evidence are you going to find? As well as, once you get into an encounter, how are they going to behave? Are they a cowardly creature? Are they aggressive? All of that's covered in a way so that a GM can kind of use the creature as more than just a combat encounter, but like an element of the story.
In all aspects of its design, the Monsternomicon was designed to be useful for players. Is this useful in-game? Can this be used to make the game experience better for players?
We also wanted to provide, complete stat blocks, to have everything available at a glance, doing everything that we can with both the layout and the choice of what we're highlighting so that these creatures could be employed as easily as possible. But one of my longtime favorites, even going back to the old Monsternomicon, that I think has been given a really good facelift, so to speak, is the hollowed, which is, I think, one of the more horrific undead that we've ever created. It's literally hollow. It's sort of lacking the body parts and kind of wants to accumulate organs, and so it basically will attack people to tear out specific organs, and add them to themselves. And those that the hollowed kill also become hollowed.
Of course, if you want pure gribbly scariness, the Dracodile is the way to go. It's our first huge-based monster in the Iron Kingdoms RPG. This thing is a challenge for even the most veteran group of players. It's massive.
The Dracodile is definitely one of the nastiest creatures we've got, especially if you're already in a water environment and suddenly Dracodile comes from nowhere and upends your boat and starts eating your friends.
Well, every creature is ready to go right off the page from the Monsternomicon and get integrated into any play session or combat encounter. One of the things that we wanted to do in order to engender greater story potential for these creatures and to really integrate them into a player experience is to provide a bunch of optional templates that you can apply to those creatures.
Basically, they're modifications, some of which are simple, some of which are a little bit more involved, where you take the base stats and they're adjusted in some way. So you might have a creature that's stronger or tougher or has some different abilities. Among the templates, there are some which are a little bit more general that you could theoretically apply to a wide variety of types of monsters. There are other templates that are very specific to a specific creature. For example, we have the Spellslinger template that you can apply to the Pistol Wraith. So now you have a Pistol Wraith who has more of a magic focus. A variety of different creatures could be blighted by being in proximity to a dragon, and then you could apply the blighted template to them. We've tried to provide for each creature a variety of thematically appropriate variations that you can apply to them. And what this does is it really kind of expands the value of each monster, because each monster entry is actually theoretically multiple monster entries.
Well, the convenience of grabbing a monster off the page of a Monsternomicon and having it ready to go to integrate into your campaign is great. Throw a template on and add even more thematic elements to it to make it fit the adventure that your party is going through. Sometimes you just really want to build a better monster, and the Monsternomicon has all the tools to allow you to customize that perfect villain for your story. My favorite expression of the creature building process has to be with the dragon spawn.
What you would do to create a dragon spawn is you decide what kind of size the dragon spawn is going to be. We have stat blocks for 3 different sizes. Past that, you choose the gifts that they have, which are sort of general abilities based on just being dragon spawn. Some of them may have claws, multiple sets of claws. Some of them might have wings. You could have a dragon spawn that's designed to be a hunter, a nocturnal hunter. You could have another one that's designed to be sort of an aggressive warrior or more of a defensive dragon spawn. You can actually create thousands of types of dragon spawn given the options that are available. Under the progenitor traits, we've usually chosen a couple of things that we consider to be sort of iconic to that dragon. Blighterghast, for example, is a dragon that we've associated with acid, and so one of the progenitor traits for Blighterghast spawn is the ability to spew this horrible acid, on their prey. So it basically enables you to kind of give some personality and character and purpose to the dragon spawn that's based on the dragon that they came from. Another interesting and character-based monster is the Spectre, and this is something of a ghost. So the idea is that this is a soul that's been driven to linger on Kane because of some trauma or some unfinished business. Between those abilities, you could basically create a variety of specters that have very little in common, that seem very different, and that you could use in a very different way in your campaign. Some of them might have more story-driven abilities, others are much more combat-oriented. In my opinion, the main benefit of this kind of a character-based customization of these monsters is so that you're creating a true adversary. You're creating somebody that can be either a recurring villain, that could be somebody that's, you know, an entire campaign is based around, or even just an adversary that's a little bit more interesting, that has a past, that has something built into their function that ties them to the story.
What makes these creatures real? What makes these feel like part of the setting, and how do they expand the play experience for GMs and players adventuring in the Iron Kingdoms?
There's just a huge variety of options for somebody who's taking this book and making use of its contents, where the number of types of adversaries that you could make out of this book are far beyond simply the monster count that's within the pages. We've always tried to find a way to present monsters in both a fun, intriguing, but also really useful way. And I think that we've kind of really hit our stride with this version of the Monsternomicon.